Rumors spread like wildfire. They burn wildly, spreading everywhere until they eventually fade away into nothing. Although, rumors are just that. Rumors. That's why you thought nothing when the mysterious envelope showed up at your door with an invitation. Let's play. You shrug off the strange encounter and continue on with your day. It's just a stupid prank. Who cares, right? Eventually, you start to notice things. Photos don't come out the right way. Things that shouldn't be possible start to happen. Whispers that shouldn't be there. And the inescapable sound of a flute that's indescribably compelling. Well, it's finally come to it. After about a year? Yeah, I won't lie. I've been slacking a little. But hey, I'm back. That's more to be said than my dad. And I'm here to fulfill my promises. Spirit Hunter NG. Deathmark's edgier brother. And I mean that in a good way. While the atmosphere is far less subtle and oppressive, the general tone of NG is a lot darker overall. This, in many ways, is really good. The creature design in this game is amazing. All the monsters look so grotesque and gross, and I love it. The gore in this game was turned way up as well. There's some brutal stuff in this game, where Deathmark tended to hold back a bit more restrained. And therein lies the biggest issue. NG feels like Deathmark turned up to an extreme. From the Persona-styled graphic design, and the goofier cast, the game overall feels a lot more extreme with an X. I mean that as a compliment, by the way. I think the game stands out a lot more from Deathmark because of it. With that out of the way, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it. NG takes place in the well-worn shoes of Akira Kijima, a violent fighter with a soft side for his family. Akira's talent was spotted while in high school by his friend Saji Amanome, who is the son of a Yakuza. Amanome decided to enlist him into an underground fighting ring, where Akira naturally excelled. After climbing the ranks, Akira realized he wanted out, and wanted to live life on his own. Amanome objected, but ultimately it wasn't his decision. When he wasn't fighting, however, he was helping out his aunt Natsumi Kijima, single mother to the young Ami Kijima, mostly just helping her with looking after Ami, which Akira enjoyed, although he's not the type to say it. It was one of those nights when a mysterious black letter found its way to his door. It read as follows. Once Princess Kaguya returned to the moon, she said, Labamat's Once Princess Kaguya returned to the moon, she said, Labamet's Pabule. What does this mean? It was a puzzle of sorts. The name Princess Kaguya sounded immediately familiar. There was an old fairy tale, the tale of a bamboo cutter, about an alien that comes down from the stars, that gets found as a baby inside a bamboo stalk by an old bamboo cutter. So if you cut the bamboo out, you get... Let's play. Huh. Well, that was a fun distraction, but it ultimately was just a waste of time. Or was it? As the days carry on, Akira starts to notice strange things happening. Photos don't develop right. Strange chills down his spine. Even a car driven by no one seemingly trying to run him over. He makes his way to the safest place he knows. His apartments. He tells Ami to go have a shower, as he tries to shake off the horrible feeling he has in his guts, when suddenly he hears a scream coming from the bathroom. Ami. He rushes to the door and opens it, only to find... nothing. No trace of Ami. All that's left is a pair of blood-stained headphones. Shocked, he looks to himself in the mirror to try and stable himself. Until eventually a sound distracts him. A flute. It draws him. He rushes desperately out into the night to try and find the source of the noise, eventually reaching the source. The air feeling thick and heavy around him, and cold. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him. He looks back to see a mysterious-looking girl playing the flute, dressed in traditional clothing. The dog taunts Akira, telling him that if he doesn't play, then Ami will disappear forever, never to be seen again. She tells him that she wants to play the Urashima woman game. And that means he must find the Urashima woman. He has no clue who the hell that even is. Seizing the moment, however, he starts to march forward, one step at a time, until eventually, he's standing close enough to get her. He prepares himself to make one final leap, and just as it starts, the doll disappears right in front of him. Damn it. She got away. As he lays there, his phone rings. It's Aunt Natsumi. He picks it up and struggles to find the words. She asks if Ami is with him, and he prepares himself to tell her the bad news. The story in this game is a lot more involved than in Deathmark. The caveat to this, though, is that the cast is a lot smaller, having only 5 different companions throughout the entire game, which is a big contrast to Deathmark. This is a good thing, however, because each of the cast members get their personality fleshed out a lot more, and you really get to know these people that you're working with. I think my favorites have to be Naoma Saban, this sleazy dirtbag journalist, and Reina Oe, this corrupt cop who does what she wants. You really got to know and love all these characters by the end of it, though, so I'm sure your favorite will be different than mine. But what are characters without a story? The story in this game is really something. The way it unfolds is incredibly compelling. You have the core spirit mechanic, where each chapter is a different entity, and you slowly learn its backstory and how it came to be the way it is, all the while trying to figure out a way to help it move on. Delving a little into spoiler territory, I really like the way this game takes twists on classic fairy tales. It reminds me a lot of Brothers Grimm, if you know what that is. NG has something similar, where all the spirits you fight are twisted, demented kind of versions of classic Japanese fairy tales. And it's really cool. Speaking of twists, I really like the way they play around with NG. For those of you who don't know, NG is a term which means no good in Japanese. However, Spirit Hunter NG has its own little spin on it, which I can't really say, and you'll just have to find out for yourself. I do like when games do this, the whole thing of taking an already existing word and then twisting it. Although it does have varying effects sometimes. Sometimes it's a little goofy, but other times it's really good. And I think NG does it pretty well. But I'll let you decide that for yourselves. Big news, people, big news. One of my biggest complaints I had with Deathmark is fixed with NG. Not only is there nameplates, there's also a little portrait at the bottom. This is a very welcome change from Deathmark, where it was a little difficult to try and figure out who was speaking, and this just overall just helps with the readability, which is always a plus. NG also brings back the classic investigation scenes with the whole dungeon crawler format, which is a series mainstay for now. However, NG has an added difference. Spooky mode. It's a little silly, but oh well. Basically, Spooky mode adds more frights while exploring. Some of these are pretty good and get me pretty bad. Others are just funny. The worst ones have to be the stupid... There's like screamers. It reminds me of those old Flash games, like if anyone ever played those like Escape the House horror games made in Flash, where the face just like zooms really close fast at you. It's a little comical and really detracts from the moment, but oh well. On the other hand, there's some really good ones. The one that got me really badly, I was sitting there exploring around, and then I see my spirit file got updated. So of course, I went to check it out. And then... it got me so bad the first time I played. I think I screamed. I don't remember. Oh yeah, spirit file. The spirit file is the little notes you get during an investigation that goes on detailing what's happening and information that's important to remember. A fun thing that I like about the spirit files in NG is that Akira's spirit file is very different to Yashiki's. Yashiki's spirit file was this long, thought-out novelization of what's going on, whereas Akira's is very to the point. I think it's just a neat little way to subtly characterize the character you're playing as. Speaking of neat little characterizations, when you're playing, you get to decide at certain points how Akira will react. It's not crazy extreme. The way it's done is through this face reaction system, where you can choose to either smile or frown. And whatever answer you pick will vary the way the person responds. It's not too in-depth, but it is something. Live or Die is back as well. However, it's replaced only by name by Crisis Choice. Same general thing, just a new tin of paint. An interesting thing that they took away from Deathmark is life points. In Deathmark you had life, which you could refill by getting these talismans and crushing them, but they've removed that entirely and now it's just time. Which is fair. They kind of were useless in Deathmark because you'd never run out of them. The new part, however, though, that I'm a really big fan of is the Survival Escape mechanic. In Survival Escape, you have to look around your environment and spot different ways to try and survive the deadly situation you find yourself in. These moments are really tense and exciting, and add some refreshing gameplay to just the standard live or die format from the first game. My favorite, however, is the boss fight versions of these survival escapes. So the traditional kind of RPG turn-based boss fight is gone, and instead we have these expanded survival escape scenes, where you have to use the knowledge and the items that you got from the case to try and fight back against the spirit, and either help it pass on, or destroy it. That's something they brought back as well, although much more in depth. Due to how little characters there are, the deaths are a lot more impactful. If you kill someone, they're dead. Shocking. But no, they're dead for the whole game, and you won't see them again. Also, the deaths are a lot more violent. Speaking of violent, the spirits in this game are a lot more violent. And many times in Spirit Hunter NG, your apartment itself will be attacked by these spirits, and you'll have to try and think some way out of it. It's really good at making you feel like no place is safe, and it really drills into your head how little time you have left. Another cool thing that they added for NG is these little things called D cards. So you get phoned up. So some guy hits you up on your phone asking for some D, and he gives you instructions, well, loose instructions on where to find them, and then you have to scour the map you're on currently and try and work out where the card would be. It's really fun, and it's not necessary for completion, but you do get a neat little side scene for it, so I'd say it's worth it. One key element that I should mention that changes the game entirely is bloodmetry. Now, I neglected to mention this earlier, just for this little shock here, I suppose, but Akira comes equipped with the psychic power of bloodmetry, meaning if he touches an object that's bloody, he can see psychic visions relating to that blood. This comes in handy a lot of times during investigation, and it's just a cool new way to add extra interactivity, so A+. As I mentioned before, the graphic design has a clear influence. It's not bad though. I really like the way it looks, and the calendar system is an interesting way to keep track of the timeline as the game goes on. The spirit design also got some change. Deathmark had this weird fishy thing going on. It's hard to describe, but a lot of the spirits ended up looking more like the ghosts of fish people than the ghosts of poor humans. NG's monster design, however, is top-notch. It's horrific and disgusting, with these weird fleshy creatures. I think if I had to pick a favorite out of the new monsters, I'd have to say the Screaming Author. This thing is freaky, with its weird bird-like legs and fleshy, contorted face. It gets even creepier when you find out the real truth behind it. But that's not for me to say. The soundtrack in this game is really good as well, with this smooth, relaxing jazz, mixed with this intense, free-form, electronic kind of jazz that really adds to the tension. My favorite track, though, would probably have to be the titular NG, the theme, kinda, of the game. This slow track that builds up with some major X-Files vibes. It really fits the spooky horror vibe of the game, and is just a great track overall. And I would be amiss without mentioning the most important song. The other theme that kind of carries you through the game. Wander Rabbits. Me. The track sort of follows you throughout the game, all through different ways, which is sure to guarantee that it'll get stuck in your head before you're finished. I can guarantee. I love NG to bits, just as much as I love Deathmark. Although, they feel like two different sides of a coin. You have the more subtle, restrained Deathmark, and the more bombastic, brazen Brother NG. Both are good in their own regards, but very different. Which I think is really a good thing. It really helps them stand out and give them their own identities. Deathmark, to me, feels more like a ghost noir thriller, where I think NG is more of a Ghostbusters action horror. But a damn entertaining one. Both NG and Deathmark are just so underrated. I can't help but say it. Although, once again, they do it to themselves. NG is a whopping 70 AUD for me, which always makes it really hard to recommend to anyone. But there's a sale right now on Steam till July 14th. So, if any of my words intrigued you, please give either Deathmark or NG a try. I promise you won't regret it. Or maybe you will, fuck me, I guess.